Welcome back to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, is I guess he told me before the show, informational backbone of the show, Andrew Cabral.
I told you that in confidence.
I know.
You were not supposed to announce that on air.
It's true.
I guess it's out of the bag now. It's out of the bag now.
Well, it's true. We said this. I'm the razzle dazzle, and
Right.
you're the informational backbone.
You're clearly the song and dance man. Clearly.
Well, I do like to sing.
Very true.
But we're back again, and
Yes.
we have a guest with us. We teased it. Well, we didn't tease it. We told you. We told you last episode we were going to have the host of the Indicator cast. He is coming from us all the way from Australia. John Mathews. How you doing, man?
Doing well, thank you. So glad to be on. Thank you guys for inviting me. I love your show, so I love all things labels. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I love your show too, man. We always are praising Indicator on here. We love what Indicator does, and you guys have been, you guys have had some great episodes. You've actually had the co-owners on or co-operators on.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we've had John and Sam on twice now, and they're really cool guys, down to earth. We can have a chat with them, and so that was a pretty cool moment getting them involved on the show. So,
Andrew, you got any questions for him? I don't want to leave you out of this, introduction, because we're going to talk to John about himself a little bit here before we get into the releases.
We always like to get the origin stories of all of our guests.
Origin stories, yes. We you got to be able to have the information to make the origin movie later.
Yes, of course. You need that framework just to give everyone a sense of who everyone is. So, John, where did your kind of love of movies come from? Your love of collecting, your love of just talking about movies in general. Was that something that was always been a part of your life, or did it kind of manifest later? What's your overall story?
Yeah, look, I think like everyone else, it started at an early age. I always been a big fan of movies growing up. When I was younger, I used to go to we call them video stores, as you know, rental stores in the US, that's what you guys call them. And I used to just hire out movies on weekends, and just had this love for cinema. So from a young age, like, watched a lot of stuff on TV. My parents, my dad's also a big movie fan, so got me into a lot of stuff when I was younger, like Charles Bronson and whatnot. So always had a love for movies, and obviously as I moved into my teen years, I started getting into more as we all do, sort of foreign films, art house films, and then in my teenage years, I started discovering labels and various DVD companies at the time. So it stems back to when I was youngest, but I always had a big fan of all types of genres of films. So yeah.
Which label was the first love? Was it like a lot of us? Was it Criterion? Was the Criterion the big label first? Yeah,
look, Criterion was. They were hard to get in Australia. So basically I had to, there was a store in Sydney that actually sold them. But they were like, I would say about $40, $50 if I did the conversion. So I'd have to get one at a time. But there was a really amazing label in Australia, long gone now. It's quite a sad story, called Director's Suite. And Director's Suite was kind of the Criterion of Australia. They released, Wim Wenders box sets, classic Buster Keaton, and it was a really amazing label of sort of art house films. So when I was basically my teen years, they were all coming out, and I was kind of getting into those sort of films. And funny, before Indicator Cast, we actually a long time ago had a podcast called Director's Suite Cast. Now that's somewhere in the internet, somewhere in the ashes. But Director's Suite, it was a powerhouse. Like they just pumped out so many titles. And it's quite a sad story. The company got acquired, as always is the story, acquired by a big company, and they came in and just said, nope, we're killing this line. What's this crap? Get rid of Director's Suite. We're just going to focus on anime, and they've just become an anime company, and they're slowly declining. It's quite a sad story, but for any listeners, look up Director's Suite. It was an amazing. They probably released over 500 titles, and they're all just like art house type cinema, and pretty amazing. But was my true first label love, because I collected all of those. So
yeah. So do you? I know right now with you guys over there, you're locked down, so you ain't going to the theater in a while. But is the theater experience still something you really cherish? Is that something you love doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I still love the cinema, and we are in lockdown, so I missed out on Candyman. I missed out on Suicide Squad. So I missed out on quite a few recent films because of the lockdown. But I still get to the cinema. Always loved the cinema. I mean, when I was younger, I used to go all the time as a kid. But we also have some really cool sort of art house cinemas in Sydney that play a lot of, really cool stuff. So I usually go to them as well. There are a few left in Sydney, not many, but I try and get to the cinema too when I can because, that's also my passion.
Great. And so with the Indicator cast, how did that get started? Like, who did you, is there any of your other regulars that you decided to just talk to, like, let's get this going,
Oh, yeah, it's quite an interesting story. Basically, I first noticed Indicator when they came out, I think everyone 5 years ago. Those first few releases, and I just went, wow, this is a really cool label. And I looked at that booklet and their extras, and I was quite blown away. And it was interesting because they were out there, and I noticed there wasn't really a place to talk about Indicator. There was some Criterion Now group, and there was also the Facebook page just wasn't really for discussion. So basically, I just reached out to Indicator and said, hey guys, is it okay if I start a Facebook group? And they said, yeah, go for it. And I think it was John, the director, who got back to me and said, yeah, that's cool, go for it, do it. So we started this Facebook group, and originally I think they were only up to about 10 titles at the time. So relatively early, and then I started adding some people, and originally it was just a place to chat, maybe about 10 of us, 15, and then eventually Indicator started to just pump out titles, and I just got all these requests, and the group just grew to 100 people, 200 people, and just really exploded, and obviously said, hey guys, look, is there anyone who can help with this group? And I put the word out, and Matt Schlee came to the rescue. He's like, oh
yeah, well, I already had him on.
Matt, that's a great guy, and a good friend of mine, Ryan Kendall, I've known for many years. He's in the film community in Melbourne. He said, I'll help out too. And there is also a fourth admin that's quite unsung that we don't really talk about. But Ryan Gallagher is also an admin on the group as well. He obviously runs Criterion Now. Criterion Cast, which is an awesome series. And so we'd been administrating this group for a while, and I think we just got talking, Matt, Ryan, and I were just Ryan Kendall was, and we even asked Gallagher, but Gallagher is obviously quite busy with his podcast. So we were just talking should we do a podcast? And they said, yeah, let's do it. So we've been talking about it for a year, and then we finally got to do it. And we had a blast doing the first episode. And then the guys from Indicator actually messaged us and said, hey, we love the podcast, keep it up, keep it going. And so that's kind of how it all started, just sort of a general idea, which we got together. So.
That's awesome, man. That's, and it's, podcasting, as much as we, even I find myself sometimes as a podcaster, as much as I have enthusiasm to talk about this stuff, sometimes it's hard to keep it going too. We were talking in Messenger, and we were I get intimidated every week to talk about all these releases. And even with Indicator, man, it's they pump out a box set. You got to talk about 7-8 movies, really make it worth it to the listeners. But yeah, it's fun, man. These labels give us a lot of joy and things to talk about. And yeah, please, everybody go. You guys just have it on, was it on Apple Podcasts? You have it anywhere else?
Your
podcast?
Yeah, it should be on all the main sort of services,
okay,
Spotify, cool. Podbean. So it's out there. But yeah, we wanted, I really want, because I love how you guys manage to pump out an episode every week or two. That's really amazing.
It's tough. Trust me, we're hobbling here. We're hurting.
It's not easy.
Yeah, because we try, but obviously it's all about schedules and trying to line it up. So because I would like to do it weekly, but a lot of the guys just can't seem to do it. So we manage to do it when we can. So every 2 weeks we try and get an episode or get a guest. But we love to do it, and like I said, the guys in Indicator, they're very supportive as well of the podcast.
Yeah.
So.
Well, great, man. That's great. Like I was saying before, you're gonna have to help us get them guys on. We're gonna have to talk to them too, because we really love them. No,
definitely could. They're so cool. Those guys are definitely.
Well, we're gonna do it. We're gonna get them on. We're gonna make sure. If we have to fly out there, we're gonna get them on. But awesome. So. With the introductions out of the way, let's we got a mountain of releases to talk about on this episode. You picked the perfect week. We got the perfect week for you to come on. So because we have 200 releases to talk about. So get ready, everybody. Get a beverage. Get your clean out your earbuds. Don't make sure there's not a lot of wax in there because you don't want to get an ear infection or anything like that.
Very true.
But let's start off with not our old friends because we're gonna hold back on the old friends, Kino.
We'll see you. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. We're gonna start out with Warner Archive, which is now just dumping releases out, and then this is our November slate.
Yes.
So Andrew, start us off.
Yeah. So last episode or episode before we've had
last episode.
Yeah, we had an addendum to their October releases, so those are all out of the way, and then in the very next week we've got their November releases, and they're just like Steven said, they're kind of dumping out stuff, and this stuff is kind of just falling out of the internet like crumbs from a cookie or whatever. They're just falling out of nowhere.
I mean, I like cookies. So
I do too. But so we've got a plethora of releases here, so I'll just go down the list. We have a film here called Ladies They Talk About from 1933. We have Lullaby of Broadway. We have our fifth film in the Thin Man series to get a Blu-ray release, so we only need one more.
Yeah, I was going to say,
then it's complete.
That last one's got to come out in December. We got to get it. That last one.
This is The Thin Man Goes Home, which, yes, this is the fifth one. And then we have Fury, which is a Fritz Lang film. And then we have National Velvet, which is one of Elizabeth Taylor's first films. Party Girl with Robert Taylor and Sid Charisse. And then we have The Last of Sheila. That the poster is just a giant question mark and a picture of a boat. And then we have a film called Some Came Running, starring Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Shirley MacLaine.
I'm assuming there's going to be music in that movie.
If you get Frank Sinatra, I'm assuming, and Dean Martin, you got to have him sing. I think it would
surprise me.
Obligated.
I mean, the description is not saying anything about it being a musical, so that's surprising. But
yeah, very true. But I believe that's all the releases. I think that's it. And so, do you want to swing it over to our guest?
Yeah, anything
that would be polite.
Yeah, that would be polite. Anything that stands out here, John?
It's once again, Warner just released. It's good that they're releasing so much stuff. I guess so. I've got the list here. I was just having a look. I guess the big one that stood out to me was sorry, did you mention National Velvet? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
National Velvet. Yeah. Sorry. I was just going to say National Velvet. That's probably the big one for me. It's one I'm quite nostalgic towards. Another childhood favorite of mine. I used to watch it quite a bit, so I'm glad to see that's finally getting a release. But also, I am interested in Fury because I'm a big Fritz Lang fan, but that's one I haven't seen of his. So
it's good. We both have seen it. It's good. It's really good.
It is very good.
It's we were saying how it's pretty prime for a remake. Actually, I mean, I'm not advocating for tons of remakes because we get enough of them. But like this movie could be reinterpreted for today, and it would really, I think, stand out because it's about a guy that gets falsely accused, and then like basically the mob of the town, like people. It's about mob mentality. It's about tribalism, and all these people assume this guy did this bad thing, and then they attack him, and they think that they killed him. Like they set this jail on fire, and they think he's dead. So basically, all these people get tried for murder, and it's about the idea of like how people get together and they have this idea, and then they do terrible things. And that's something that we deal with today a lot with the internet, like people, attacking people online or attacking people just in mobs, just syncing up their ideas and just affirming each other and just not thinking for themselves and just, and it's something that really could, I think, be prime. But this movie, Fritz Lang, this was his first American film. It's really good. Andrew, any more thoughts on it?
Yeah, it is very good. Came out in 1936, so we have a relatively younger Spencer Tracy than you're probably used to seeing him in his later days.
Well, I mean, he still looks 35.
He always looks his age. He always looks older than probably what he was at the time, but yeah, still very, very good. This was around the time where he was doing, was it Captain's Courageous, where he won an Oscar for that? I think that was around the same time frame. But I agree with our guest. I agree with John. National Velvet is kind of a big one for me. I'm just a giant, big Elizabeth Taylor fan, so I want to get all of her films. And I actually have this on DVD already, so this would be a nice upgrade. And
it's directed by Clarence Brown, and he's done a few other pretty, like he did Anna Karenina. and
yes.
he did Human Comedy. You know, he's worked with Mickey Rooney a few times, but yeah, I wasn't able to watch any of these other things, and I'm waiting to watch The Thin Man Goes Home when I get all these releases, because I'm gonna just wait till I get all the Thin Man movies, and then I'm gonna binge them. But any of these other ones stand out?
For me, I did get to watch Party Girl with Robert Taylor and Sid Charisse, and it's a good film. It's a really good film. It's not quite film noir, but it is dealing with kind of gangsters and...
Well, it's Nicholas Ray. I mean, that right there.
It is Nicholas Ray, but it's late 50s.
Okay.
So I wasn't quite sure if it fit in that film noir realm, but it is dealing with, gangsters and dark things like that. Is
J.
really
Lee
good.
Cobb yelling in the movie?
Lee J. Cobb is yelling in the movie.
I always say J. Lee Cobb. I don't know why I do that. I like to say their middle name first. I don't know.
Yeah, John, I have a thing where with Lee J. Cobb was one of my favorite kind of character actors, where in every role he's ever in, he's always yelling out his lines, and it's always so like over the top and iconic, and I just really, really love it. Coincidentally, this was right after he was in 12 Angry Men. So he's in that, I guess, that 12 Angry Men arguing mode throughout this movie.
It became his shtick, I guess.
I guess.
Like it's like he's known for being angry. He's like, I guess I'm going to have to be angry the rest of my career, I guess. That's...
So, and he plays like a main like mob boss in this movie, so he's got to be angry and he's got to be vitriol and all that kind of stuff. But I really enjoy that film a lot. Because The Thin Man Goes Home, I really like all the Thin Man films. I think they do get, I guess you could say they diminish over time. Once you get to the fifth movie in a franchise, things do kind of wane a little bit. And I believe this is the first film that doesn't have the original director.
Yeah, Richard Thorpe is directing this movie.
Yeah, this is not the original director, which was, who was it? Was it Van Dyke? I think was the original director.
I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah. So for me, the original is always the best film in this franchise, and the irony of it is that like only the first film deals with a quote unquote thin man. The rest of them have nothing to do with a thin man. They just went for the name recognition, I guess.
Yeah.
So I find that to be kind of interesting. But what was the other one that I watched? Oh yes, Ladies They Talk About. What I find so interesting about this film is that stars Barbara Stanwyck, and it is a pre-code film, and we just don't get a lot of pre-code Hollywood films on Blu-ray. And I believe this was already released on DVD in the the Underground Hollywood Sets. I actually have them right here. Forbidden Hollywood.
See, there it is.
Collections.
It's right next to him.
I coincidentally have it. I'm holding it up to the camera as if people could actually see it, but they can't.
Yeah.
The Forbidden Hollywood Sets, which they did a number of these, like it went into like the teens of how many they did, maybe even 20s, and they would just have these pre-code films, and I believe this film was in the 5th set, which I don't have, but I'm glad some of those are getting re-releases, and this will go nice with the Kino Lorber box set of Barbara Stanwyck films. Nice. So this will fit right next to that on the shelf. That's it. That's it for me. If our guest has anything else he wants to discuss before we shovel along to the next one.
No, I mean that's it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a good bunch. I've seen a few of the Thin Man films, and I haven't seen Thin Man Goes Home, so that's one I'll definitely be grabbing. The Last of Sheila I saw many years ago on TV. It's on a boat from memory. It's a bit of a thriller. I haven't seen years. That's one I'll be picking up because I think I need to give it a rewatch. It's probably been a good 15 years or so. But yeah, it's a solid bunch, and I'll be grabbing a few definitely from this lot.
Yeah, you sound like us. I need to see it, so I'll buy it.
Yeah, it's a great cast. Yeah, it's a great cast. James Coburn, James Mason, young Ian McShane, I assume, Raquel Welch, and way at the bottom, is that Anthony Perkins? Is that the Anthony Perkins, or is that a different Anthony Perkins? It says written by Stephen Sondheim and Anthony Perkins. I'm gonna look that up actually.
Well, don't do it. Don't do it now, Jesus.
Oh, okay.
We got to keep this going.
Keep
that's
a
mystery.
Going.
That's a mystery that we let the viewers, the listeners, look it up themselves. They get all excited. They're like, "Ooh, God!"
I mean, I can spoil it for them right now because it is.
And damn it, I gave him the
Anthony
time.
Perkins.
See, this is what I do. I gave him the razzle, and he went and did the dazzle. Right
yeah, shake and bake.
D. Norman Bates wrote that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it is the Norman Bates. Co-wrote the film with Stephen Sondheim. Very interesting.
He does have more talent than we give him credit for.
Oh yeah, I
Jeez.
think Anthony Perkins is a great actor.
He is a good actor.
Yeah, he was a great actor.
But let's move on. Let's go over to the Eureka releases. We got 3 releases from them. This is their December releases. We got Champion, that stars Kirk Douglas. We also have The Love of Jeannie Nay. And we have a movie that just came out, I think 2020. It's called Sweet Thing. I really wanted to watch at least Champion, and apparently it's on the Criterion Channel. You said, Andrew?
I did. Yes, it is streaming on there currently.
And it's like a boxing film, which the director, if I'm not mistaken, Mark Robinson. He did another boxing film, The Harder They Fall, which has got Humphrey Bogart in it.
One of his last films, I believe.
Yeah. Any of these stand out, John, to you?
Look, I love Eureka. I'm actually a Master of Cinema completionist. So I've got the entire Master of Cinema collection.
Wow,
so,
nice.
Yeah, just always been collecting for over a decade now, that label. So I'll obviously grab the Master of Cinema titles because it's got the spine number. You've got.
Did you get Johnny Guitar in yet?
I did, yes, actually.
That's good. Good.
So.
Yes, nice. It's nice and yellow.
Nice and yellow.
Very bright.
Very bright. Yeah, it's a bit too bright. No, it's very cool stuff. So, yeah, Champion. I actually, funny enough, I've seen that film. It actually got an Olive Films release, I believe, probably about 8-9 years ago. Like it's been a while, and I actually have that disc, and I saw it, and I really enjoyed it. It is a boxing film. It has noir elements, and it's quite dark, and I'm looking forward to rewatching it. Obviously The Love of Jean Nay. That's Murnau, I think. Who directed that one? That was.
You're good.
Oh yeah, G.W. Pats. Yeah. I love my silent film, so I'll be grabbing that. And the other one, I'm a bit picky on that label. It's Eureka's side label, Sweet Things On. But I had a look at the trailer, and it looks like a lot of fun. It looks like a bit of a coming of age story, so I may pick that up. But definitely will be getting Champion and the other one as well. Yeah.
Andrew, I know you watched. The
Love
of Jeannie Nay, didn't you?
No, I didn't get to see any of these.
Oh, actually. I thought I saw you said you watched that.
I was concentrating on, I guess, teasing what's coming up next or later is the Imprint stuff. I was concentrating all of my efforts onto that this week, but I kind of am interested in all of these films. I'm really fascinated with Champion and starring Kirk Douglas. First ever Oscar nomination apparently was from this film, and I don't know what it was with boxing films of like the 40s and 50s.
Yeah. What's the one that came out? God, it's escaping
I have
me.
It.
It's a Kino movie, right? Or
it's
about
the
setup. The setup.
The setup is Warner Archive.
Yeah, Warner Archive. That's a good. That's a good.
That movie's like
boxing movie
70 something minutes, and it's like perfect boxing film, noir film. But it's kind of what I was just going to say is that those films of that time they seem so dark and existential, and it's not so much about the sport of boxing or the actual fights in the films themselves. It's all about some type of universal human struggle are in those movies. And I just found that to be so interesting how, later on, the sports movies would kind of would take those ideas and, reuse them. Later on, of course, boxing films would get more elaborate and more, intricate. I just think of Rocky and just how that movie is about boxing, but it's not really about boxing.
Yeah.
It's about, the human spirit and overcoming odds and, a character's journey and stuff like that. And I just kind of compare and contrast, where were what was the bedrock of the boxing movie back then? And here you have, 1949 Champion. Because you can see the parallels. But I'm always down for more silent film as well. G.W. Pabst has a few releases from a bunch of different labels. It has one from Criterion, actually. I think, was it Westfront 1918, which is about World War I. Movie came out in 1930. And he has he has, a couple of releases around, in other boutique labels. But Sweet Thing's a movie I've never heard of until right now. So it's kind of like what's cool about going through a lot of releases is you get to discover stuff you've never even heard of, and it could be modern stuff. And what I really find interesting is that it's set in New Bedford, Massachusetts, which is about an hour ride from where I live. And it's you always hear about what's going on down there in the local news and whatnot. So that's very interesting. I know
that makes me want to watch it now.
I mean, it's more personal for me, but I know a lot of people from my Portuguese heritage are from there. Like, it has a huge Portuguese population and all that kind of stuff. When people would first come over here to this country to immigrate, they would kind of end up in like New Bedford, Fall River area, and a lot of people grew up in those areas, and family members and whatnot. So I just find that kind of an interesting personal anecdote there, and also kind of interesting that they're putting out a more modern film. You don't see that from Eureka too often, at least not from the stuff we've talked about.
At least I think, like as John was saying, that other line of films that Eureka puts out typically, I think, goes for more modern films. If I'm not mistaken, John.
That's right. Yeah, Montage is the line. I've got a few of the releases. I cherry pick that line depending on the the word of mouth. Like, they've got some really good stuff on that line. One of the big ones, The Painted Bird, was a huge one. That was a big release. Yeah. Some Korean films. So pretty interesting label. I definitely recommend check out their catalog. You can generally get them at a pretty good price. They sometimes have like 2 for $20s on Eureka's site. So
yeah, I was gonna say that I remember. I think from the past episodes we've had a couple titles from that line come on here, and typically the only thing about them is they're usually bare bones when it comes to like any kind of extras or anything like that.
So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, this one seems to be bare bones.
Yeah.
There's a collector's booklet that's only available in the first print run only, but that's about it. Actually, a few of these are not bare bones, but we are getting like full restorations and remasters on both Champion and the line of Jean Ney, The Love of Jean Ney. So that's really nice. Apparently, Champion was previously remastered by Paramount Pictures. Now I'm wondering, will that look better than the Olive Pictures one that John was referencing, which did come out in 2013, which is ages ago when it comes to, Blu-rays and, aesthetics and whatnot and restorations. So I'm just curious if it's a new one, or if they're just taking that master, that transfer, and just porting it over. I guess that remains to be seen. But we are getting a new commentary on that as well.
I mean, typically Eureka stuff is pretty affordable. So though you're maybe not getting as much of an extras package, that you'd maybe like, at least that they're reasonable with price to help, balance that out. So
they definitely are. Yeah, their releases are, like I said, with Master of Cinema, sometimes they'll do a big box with a lot of extras, and sometimes they'll do a small one. So it just depends on the film. But it's interesting because Johnny Guitar and Champion are from the Republic Paramount catalog, so they've cracked that catalog. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. So I'm just curious to see what other sort of Paramount / Republic titles they can pull out of there. So there's some good stuff in there as well. So it's
I'm really glad that Paramount is opening up their catalog, if you will, and they're just kind of like, they're putting out their own stuff, they're letting other labels put out stuff, and it's like, welcome to the Blu-ray release
welcome
game,
to
Paramount.
The jungle, baby.
it's like I'm glad you guys woke up. I've been saying this on the podcast for months. I'm glad they woke up from whatever the Blu-ray release coma they were in for years.
It seems like Imprint is taking full advantage of that.
Yeah, Imprint started out that, and then they're revving up their Paramount Presents line and their regular Paramount line with catalog titles as well.
And then they're taking back Criterions. They're like, give me back that.
They're not only taking back, they're releasing them with new transfers too.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is madness.
We're gonna get into that with our next guest, Justin Beam, who's coming on at the end of the month. We got to get into him with that. It's like, dude, what's your deal? Like, you guys are just taking back stuff and like this, this is Indian givers, but cool. That's it for our Eureka talk. Let's move on to another big, gigantic amount of releases for one label. Let's talk about the Shout Factory stuff.
Ah, yes. Shout, let it all out. been wanting to make that joke for a long time.
I'm the singer. I'm the song and dance guy. What are you doing? You're over here trying to create
step over
cheers
you.
and stuff. What is this?
I wanted to make that joke for a long time. I guess the opportunity
That's a
was now.
joke.
It didn't land well, Steven. I didn't say it was
well,
good.
It's okay.
I didn't
It's
say it was
okay.
good.
I don't get most of your jokes anyway. I don't.
That's very true. Very true.
But yeah,
go on.
Let's do this. So Shout Factory or Scream Factory. These are mostly, I think, Scream Factory releases. They dropped a good little batch here. First, we'll start with 1970s The Vampire Lovers. The posters got me. Yeah, it's got some guys chained up against a wall, and the vampire's like, "Wah!" So that's enough to get me to watch it at least. We also have a movie, and I misspelled this in the show notes as Trig, but it's actually Trog.
Yes, it is.
Which looks like a crazy monster movie, which I like that kind of stuff. Speaking of that, I'm going to side tangent. I did just order the 2 Arrow box sets. The Cold War creatures. Finally, I'm ordering that.
Nice.
And then the other one, the Asian, the Japanese set with all the crazy monsters in it. We talked about it a month or so ago.
Damagen set?
No, I got the Damagen. What did you say, John? That's it. If I knew how to pronounce anything, I would have said it, but I don't. So I moved on. But yes, Trog from 1970. Also, I think a lot of these releases are 60s and 70s stuff. Then we also got Lady in the Cage, which is something that Imprint also is putting out, which we'll talk again later with that. Maybe we'll just wait to talk about that when we talk about Imprint. Then we also have from 1968, No Way to Treat a Lady. And then we also have from 1983, Going Berserk, which I think is like kind of this one, and the next one is kind of like they don't really work. It didn't fall in line with all the other releases. And then we have the classic Adam Sandler, Damon Wayans movie, Bulletproof, from 1996. John, anything excites you here?
Yeah, it's an interesting list. I like Shout Factory. I love the things they do. I have a large Scream Factory collection. I'm actually, funny enough, Shout Select Complete. I do like that line. I try and get all the
dude. You're killing us. You're giving Andrew's over there like going. He's like oh jeez, he's complete on that stuff. Like he's like twerking over there. He's like you're gonna make him buy some stuff. Because he's a completionist kind of guy,
Well, it's the numbers get you. It's like they put the numbers on the side, so it's like if you line them up on a shelf and you don't have the numbers next to like all the numbers, that gets to you.
The thing is Andrew's got a healthier completionist attitude, I think, because some people are complete by like label a lot and stuff, and that's all good and all. Because I try to be complete on some like Indicator. I have all the box sets. I haven't been able to get all the single stuff. That's fine, but Andrew's got a healthier completionist attitude where he's more complete. He wants to be complete on filmmakers. He wants to be complete on actors. More about true. the artists involved, not the people that are releasing the stuff, which is of course our show, but that can go down. You can go down a rabbit hole. Like when you're like, I need to be Vinegar Syndrome complete. Well, do you really need all them movies that are not that great?
Some people do. Some people do.
And that's fine. That's fine. Half what we do on this show is make people buy stuff that they probably didn't want to buy before. Yeah.
But
so we're contradictory. But yeah, John, I'm sorry.
But back to John about his Shout Factory completeness.
Yes, sorry about that.
Well, look, with Scream Factory, I got in early with the Halloween 2 release and 3 when they did that, and I was complete to a point when they started getting into like IFC stuff, and I was like, oh no, I can't do this. Sorry.
Did you get Little Big League yet?
Yes, I do. It's sitting on the shelf.
Yes.
That's a classic. That's a 90s classic.
It is, yeah.
And then when they started releasing a lot of the modern horror, I was like, I can't do this. So with Scream Factory, I am complete just with the classic, like older 80s, 90s, and to a degree, sort of, I kind of cut off around the early to mid 2000s. It's kind of my strange cutoff point where I think movies kind of, just aren't as good in terms of horror after that. But anyway, just my opinion. But yeah, so
you're not completely wrong there.
so I'll grab all the Scream Factory stuff and shout. But yes, getting onto it, Vampire Lovers. Yes, I am keen. That did actually have an old release from Scream Factory, but I actually have it on the shelf because before the show I said, hang on a sec, has this been released? So it's a good film. It's a 70s sort of gothic British film. But if they're doing a new transfer, I'm all over it. Or if it's a collector's edition, because it's quite an old disc. It was like one of the first Scream Factory releases back in the day. What else we got here? Bulletproof, of course. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. But I guess the big one here is Trog, because I never thought anyone would get that out of the Warner Brothers catalog. It's absolutely insane. It's like something for another planet. It's one that.
It has Joan Crawford in it. I mean, it's.
Yeah, and I love this sort of era where sort of golden age actresses and actors end up in the 60s and 70s end up in these really bizarre B-grade sort of sci-fi horror films, because the actors they're playing completely straight, and Joan Collins playing it completely straight, and that's what makes it so wonderful. So Trog is something. Please, I'm banging the drum for Trog. I'm just over the moon that's getting a release.
I'm going to check it out. This is also, it was directed by Freddie Francis. And he's directed some stuff, but he was a cinema. This is something that you find out every once in a while when you're doing research. Freddie Francis is a cinematographer primarily, and he did movies like The Straight Story, Elephant Man, Glory, Cape Fear, the Martin Scorsese Cape Fear. He's like a pretty great cinematographer that jumped into directing and did a movie like Trog, which I think was something he did early on, actually, more early on in his career. Or midway through, but yeah, I mean, this fascinates me, so I'm definitely checking it out.
Yep, definitely.
Andrew, anything?
I was actually, good thing John is here because he did mention Vampire Lovers did come out back in 2013. I remember seeing this movie all the time at Barnes and Noble when I would go for the Criterion sale, because it would just be there. Because I think it's a Hammer horror film, if memory serves. Or it's from Hammer or something. And I've seen the Vampire Lovers, and it's good. It's like that 70s like horror, like exploitation, over sexualized, really, good stuff. Lady in a Cage, I guess we'll talk about more later when we talk about Imprint. We've never really had that before, where we've had, in the same episode or the same week.
Maybe not in the same episode, but it definitely happens.
We've had multiple releases. I mean, we just had All or Nothing.
All or Nothing.
Films getting a Studio Canal release, and then the next day, Severin says they're going to put out All or Nothing as well.
I didn't put that in the show notes, but we might as well bring that up when we talk about Severin next.
We might as well bring that up as well. Yeah. But Trog is kind of the big one, like John said. I'm surprised this movie is getting a release as well. There's going to be people buying it because it's notoriously terrible. One, because it's so crazy, and it's starring Joan Crawford in one of her last film roles. And by that point in her career, she couldn't get much work. This was way after she was in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which kind of revived her career. But now her career was on a downward trajectory at that time, and it's low budget. It's wildly crazy. She's talking to like this monster that's clearly somebody in a really, really bad cheap, monster outfit, like gorilla or ape outfit. It's terrible. Bulletproof is something I'm pretty sure I watched and rented when I was younger on VHS or even DVD days. I feel like that was in that realm. It's a movie from Adam Sandler's filmography that no one ends up talking about, even though I'm pretty sure he did this in the mix of all of his 90s comedies.
It was near the beginning. Yeah, it was like near the beginning. Like it was like I think he did like Happy Gilmore. And
around the same time.
Yeah, it was like right around that same time. And then he was starting to get big. And then I think Damon Wayans at the time was already kind of a name. So he was
part of the Wayans Brothers family. And
yeah,
they were doing, In Living Color at the time, the Wayans Brothers show that was on the WV network, I think, at the time. And, they've been in show business for over 30 years now. But Bulletproof, came out in 1996. So kind of gets lost in that 80s and 90s Adam Sandler filmography. So that's kind of interesting. I want to check to see if that's gotten a Blu-ray release before, because I feel like it has.
It would surprise me if it didn't.
I'm surprised Oh, it did get a Blu-ray release before by Universal back in 2011. So this is another re-release. Talk about 2011. That's 10 lifetimes ago. Yeah, so that's interesting. But yeah, these all look interesting. It was kind of just like a dump off from Shout Factory / Scream Factory tandem release slate.
Yeah, I mean, then you got like Going Berserk, which is a comedy that's got John Candy and Eugene Levy. You know, like it's kind of an interesting array of.
Isn't that like pre-Splash? I think that's pre-Splash.
I think so. Yeah.
John Candy and Eugene Levy.
Kurtwood Smith is in it.
Oh, pre-RoboCop, Kurtwood Smith.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, some interesting titles here. I'm definitely Trog is the one I'm going to keep an eye on the most. I think based off of what you guys are saying.
Yeah, they've released a lot of her kind of exploitative films of the time, like Berserk and Straight Jacket. I know they released those too, and those have gotten better releases, I think, in the UK, if memory serves.
Well, that's always the story usually.
Yeah,
UK does something better than the US. We know this. Speaking of Indicator, let's go ahead and bring up that Indicator title.
Good transition.
I know, right? Really that was right on the spot because I was initially just going to go to Severin, but then I was like, "This is my chance right here, Indicator." Go ahead. You actually watched this movie, so I haven't seen it.
Yes, I have, and this is A Time for Dying. This is a Bud Bedecker film, and this is his last, I believe, narrative feature film. Came out in, I want to say, late 1960s, like 1968, 69. And coincidentally, their Bud Bedecker box set just went out of print recently. I only bring that up once again to shake my fist at the limited edition collector gods out there because I missed out on it and now I want it and can't get it. It's a thing. It's a thing.
That's the story of.
That's a story of my life.
Of the life of like nerds and geeks. We pine after the women we can't have, and then they got that boyfriend. You want to be like, I want to beat that guy
damn
up.
You.
But we can't beat anybody up. So
yeah,
we're like,
it's
I'm
very Phantom of the Opera-esque, I guess. But this is a very vague, sneaky release because they kind of just said, "Hey, it's coming out next year." We don't even have a pre-order for it now. I don't even know if it's on their website yet, but it's coming. So I guess we hand it over to John.
You know the guys that operate that place. Tell us something. Give us an info.
Did you know this was coming?
No. This once again, this was a complete blind announcement. It kind of took me back because there was a question when we did ask them around westerns, and I think Sam kind of hinted, yes, that's something we are looking at. But I thought later on down the track, which probably is, but I was quite surprised. Once again, that 5 Tall Tales box set, an amazing set. I just smashed through those films. I enjoyed them all. Look, to be honest, a lot of them were first watches for me because I'm not the biggest Western guy. I mean, I've seen all the Western classics, but I mean, I do want to get into the genre more. And the Bud films are interesting because they all, like, each film is different in that set. They're not the same. They're all very different in terms of style and almost genre. So once again, just completely blind. I'm very keen. The more westerns they can get into, the better. So I'm all over this. Very, very excited.
Yeah, when you guys were talking on that episode, the idea of doing like maybe a line of like unknown westerns is appealing to me. I mean, like just finding some like kind of like. Because, like, even in the noir sets, like, some of them are, like, borderline, like, noir, borderline something else. Like, finding some westerns that are, like, kind of westerns, but also really are, like, feel like more like another genre, maybe. Like, that would be interesting to me to get some of that, like, more of that unknown stuff. So, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, let's, now that since John couldn't give us any inside information, we'll move. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and I have seen the movie, so I can definitely say that it's worth.
Is it worth buying?
Worth buying. I really did dig it. It's very short. It's about 75 minutes, 80 minutes or so.
I love a good hour and 20 minute.
Film.
Just bam. Yes.
Yeah.
And then spend the rest of the time just extras. Just bam. Just the extras are longer than the movies. Like. But,
just for speculation purposes, do we kind of assume this is probably getting one of their limited edition releases, with
Well, I don't know if
DVD
it's
and
going to
Blu-ray
be.
and
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be. I don't. Based off of what we're seeing, at least in that picture, it's not going to be. I mean, they're all limited.
I'm
but,
assuming like kind of like where they're single, regular, limited,
Yeah,
not their
single,
super
regular.
deluxe ones with the box sets and
Yeah, yeah.
Box. It looks like probably just maybe a standard limited, but yeah,
Yeah.
It looks yeah, it definitely looks like it.
All right. Well, now we've made it to the last little part of our marathon. I think this is the last. Or we got something else.
we got
oh no, I'm
two-
sorry, Severin.
yeah, we have Severin, then our grand
I messed
finale.
myself up because of Indicator. Stupid Indicator.
Yeah, I know. They get
Severin.
to you.
So Severin, which is we've had Andrew Furtado from Severin on. We didn't line this up. We typically we've the last two times we lined up Andrew Furtado on when a big announcement happens. We had him on to talk the horror folk, and we didn't even know that was going to come. We didn't know that.
Yeah,
we didn't know anything.
That the folk horror box set, which
That's
is
what I meant.
massive.
That's what I said.
Yes, you said horror folk.
I know I did. It's called
sounded like
dyslexia. Okay.
Sorry.
Just give me a break here. But and then of course we had him on when we talked about all the sale stuff for the July stuff, the July sale or June sale. But so now they have another box set they're releasing for, is it November? I'm pretty sure. So
street date is 11/30/2021. So yes.
And it's called Nasty Habits, the Nunsploitation Collection on Blu-ray.
Whoever came up with that title is pretty genius.
It's great.
Nasty Habits.
And the art of this box set, we've talked about her before. Sister Hyde did the art for this box set.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
it's really good. You go over to her Instagram. She always posts stuff about all the releases she's working on and stuff. And this is great. A great like red, background with like two nuns about to kiss on the front. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, black, white, and red, which is a great color combo, and it's kind of like a washed out, almost like screenshot that's painted. It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
gorgeous color scheme.
But this set, go ahead.
I was just saying it comes with 4 movies, but I think you're about to get into that.
Yeah. This set comes with 4 films, each getting their own disc, which is always good. And I believe these are all Italian nunsploitation films, if I'm not mistaken. So on disc 1, we have Christina Devil Nun. I haven't seen that one yet, but I did see 2 of these. We also have on disc 2, Story of a Cloistered Nun. We also have on disc 3, Images in a Convent, and we have on disc 4, The True Story of the Nun of Monza. John, I hate to ask, but have you seen any of these? Because I'm pretty sure you've probably seen at least a couple of these, right?
Yeah, well, actually,
have you?
Yeah, I've seen one of them.
I was being sarcastic, but okay, go ahead.
No,
it worked out. It worked out.
No, it's like, I love Severin. Big Severin nut myself.
Don't tell me you're Severin complete too.
I believe so, and Blu-ray. I think.
Holy shit! This dude's crazier than we are.
I know.
Not all there. I spend way too much money on Blu-rays. I usually what I do is I usually just get their monthly packages and just kind of just.
No, you're people like you are the reason we still have it. We still have physical media. Look, we're crazy too, but you're over here like saying like I'm complete on this and what? Like you're the reason we still have physical media is guys like you. So you keep doing your thing as long as you can afford it.
Yeah. As long as until it sends me into bankruptcy, I'll keep going. Definitely. No. Like I said, so whenever they announce something, I'll definitely be grabbing it because I just love the things that these guys release. A lot of them are discoveries. A lot of them are I may have seen before. The one I have seen is Images in a Convent. And the reason I saw that one is because it's a Joe D'Amato film. And I went through a bit of a Joe D'Amato phase. And I think I've got an old Shriek Show DVD or Media Blasters, whatever it was. And I remember it being pretty nasty from memory and pretty graphic.
Oh, it's a softcore porn. Yes.
Yeah. So very nice.
I've seen it too. I watched it the other day, and it's basically about apparently the devil's coming in and making all the nuns go sex crazy, and it's literally just tons of scenes of nun on nun action. I mean that's what it is.
Right up my alley. So
yeah,
so
yeah, it's not. I'll be honest with you. it might sound creepy, but I enjoyed it.
No, I remember, I remember seeing it ages ago on DVD. I remember just images and that sort of devil statue and a few things like that. And I'm very keen to get back into it and watch all of these. My good friend Suzanne, who's been on the podcast a few times, she messaged me. She fell off her chair because she was so excited because she's actually seen all these films. She's kind of my friend Suzanne. She's mainly sort of the like gothic Italian type cinema expert. She's seen all these type of films, so she's like, "Oh my god, this box set's coming out!" And, oh, great! I've only seen one of them, but yeah, it looks great, and I just love this type of stuff. So yeah, I'll definitely be grabbing it from Severin.
Great, Andrew. I know you're a big nun fan. You love nuns.
Well, I did grow up Catholic.
I was assuming that too, but that was actually just a guess. I did
go to Catholic school from the 7th grade all the way up through end of high school, and went to a Catholic college.
Oh, you poor sir.
So I did it. So all this stuff is just fantastic to me, who's like an ex-Catholic. And just
are these more like horror movies to you?
Oh God, no, not anymore. When I was a teenager, I was super religious. Now that I'm older, I would say, what's the it's lapsed. I think they call it lapsed.
Yeah,
lapsed.
You're batting for the other side. Now you work for the devil.
Now I'm an atheist. So it's like super swing from like almost priest to now.
Oh wow, you were almost priest Cabral.
Back when I was a teenager, that was a career path that I thought was an option at the time. I'm
learning new things.
Yeah, I know. I don't think I've ever told you that before.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, I went to church every Sunday and all that kind of stuff back when I was a teenager. That was many, many moons ago. If anything, I love the almost not even satirical, but the analytical, criticizing nature of films like this, where it's taking something that people have exalted up to a point of ridiculous, Hippocratic levels of piousness, and it's like, no, it's not. What I mean? It's all BS, and it's bad for you.
I mean, like
as George Carlin would say,
everybody's got urges. Everybody's all humans for the most part. I mean, some people don't have sexual urges like others, but like it's like, you can't just tell people don't have sex. They're gonna find ways.
Well, it does play on. I mean, I haven't seen these films, but it does play on the idea of like those who tend to be super non-sexual, you know what I mean? And I'm not talking about asexuality or anything like that. I'm just talking about people who are like, pearl clutching and blasphemous, all this kind of nonsense.
They're always
those are
worst.
the ones who probably end up, transferring those feelings into unhealthier ways in other directions. Maybe they're bitter, angry people, or they take it out in other ways and whatnot. But these films here seem to be, criticizing the piousness of religion, which is something I'm always down for. I always love that kind of stuff. What I really like about this box set, though, is that we are getting special features on each film and each disc. Not a lot, but enough to, I guess, give you kind of context of the film. Whether it's an audio commentary, whether it's kind of interviews with people, or kind of video essays about certain things and certain aspects of this type of subgenre. I really like it. It really reminds me. This seems to be in the same vein as Ken Russell's Devils, which is probably a film that will never see the light of day on Blu-ray in any official form. But who knows? Who knows? Because I'm pretty sure Warner Brothers has that in their catalog, and they just won't let it out. But
you don't think Warner Brothers wants to put out an archive release of The Devils?
I wish. You know how hot that would sell? They're crazy. They're holding on to to gold. People would buy that. I mean,
or they should just lease it
team,
over to Criterion, get it over there.
Or anyone, lease it over to Severin. They'll definitely put it out.
Well, yeah, but wasn't one of the labels put out The Devils? Didn't the Criterion put out The Devils?
It was BFI in the UK.
Was there a BFI release?
Yeah, but Warner Brothers had all these strict rules around how they could do it, and they said you can't give this sort of context. It was very odd, but I've got that released.
They probably also made them so they could only use a certain cut of the movie,
it's probably like a cut down
the British
version.
cut, which is actually the longest, but it's not the true complete version. But it's as good as we'll get, and it's a pretty good DVD. So it'll do for now. Sadly, until we get a
yeah.
But yeah, I'm very interested in this set. I probably will get it down the line somewhere because I'm always interested in adding things in my collection that I don't have anything of. I don't have
Right.
any Nunsploitation in my collection. So
Yeah, it's an interesting. Would you call it a subgenre?
yeah. I mean, just like
Exploitative subgenre.
yeah, picking up. That's one thing Severin's done really well with, especially this year. Is they have these sets come out where they're very much encompassing a genre or encompassing a filmmaker, like Al Adamson, or like they got like I said, the horror folk set coming out, or the folk horror set. Sorry, let me say it in the right order.
I wasn't going to correct you on that one.
I'm just kidding, but so yeah, I mean, Severin's been really stepping up the game this year, and of course we've only been in the Severin game for this past year,
a couple
basically.
months, yeah.
But yeah.
Just sneaking this in, and something completely on the other side of the spectrum is their Blu-ray release of All or Nothing, which is completely not what they typically do. So that was a super surprise. I mean, when it comes to this release, we talked about this movie, ridiculously in depth. Not really, but we talked about it a lot when we talked about the Studio Canal release. But it looks like this would be the same transfer and probably the same special features, which I think is just a port over of the DVD stuff.
And I'm assuming this one's region free, or at least region A.
Yeah, so and probably cheaper to get because you don't have to pay. We don't have to pay the import.
I think it on Diabolic it's $24.99, maybe something. It's going to be under $30, I think.
Oh, okay.
So not too bad.
And
but it's a good movie. I watched it in between episodes, and it's good, really good. I'm like I said last episode. I need to see more Mike Leigh.
Yeah, I think Mike Leigh's a great filmmaker. John, are you familiar with Mike Leigh's work, and are you a fan?
Yeah, I do like Mike Leigh. I've seen a majority of his work. This is one I haven't seen, I guess just because of availability, and it's probably been, down here in Australia, and even in terms of labels, it's probably been one of the more least available. But yeah, I love his films. I'm glad that Criterion recently released Secret and Lies. There's I love Naked, another great film, probably one of his darker films, but he does think he makes really good films about, I guess, just working class folk in the UK, and films like Meantime, and it just gives you an insight to another world. And his films can be a bit bleak, but I love them. I think they're great. But I'm very excited about this release, so I'll be grabbing it 100%.
Great. All right, well now we can get to. We held off last episode partially out of just sheer exhaustion. We couldn't add another. Well, actually, last episode we probably could have added this, but we wanted to hold off because our man here is from the same area that this label exists out of, which is in Australia. Imprint, Imprint Films. They've got a lot of great. They still got that big set coming out. I think here in the next couple weeks is supposed to finally ship out. The Gong Li. Jumeau set, and now this is their December releases, their December slate.
Yes,
and you go through this for me.
Okay, so we have about 8 titles, I think 8 or 9 titles. Can't really count. We have
8.
Yes, so we have The Parallax View, Outrage, The Naked Jungle, The Country Girl, House of Cards, Lady in a Cage, once again, Kitten with a Whip, and then Last Train from Gun Hill. And for me, the ones that stick out the most, I'll just kind of get that out there, is The Country Girl, starring Grace Kelly. It is her Oscar-winning role that she was in, and this film has really only had a DVD release, at least here in the States, that I've been circling around for years, but I'm glad I waited because I really want this Blu-ray. I guess kind of not the shade that's thrown on this film, but this is the film that she won an Oscar over Judy Garland for A Star Is Born, and it's always one of those controversial ones where Judy Garland should have won the Oscar and Grace Kelly shouldn't have. So it's always been one of those things in kind of like old Hollywood circles that people have brought up many times. Outrage is directed by the great Ida Lupino, so that's going to fit right next to the Ida Lupino box set from Kino Lorber for me. So that's something that I definitely want to get, right off the bat here. Steven, how are you looking with all of these movies?
Well, I've seen, I know the Parallax View was one I need to watch because
Yes.
it's kind of part of that like unofficial trilogy. We just had the release from Criterion.
Yes, we did.
The main one here, I mean, I did see The Last Train from Gun Hill, which has got Kirk Douglas and Anthony Quinn. It's a pretty interesting Western. I mean, it's directed by John Sturges, and John Sturges done tons of stuff from this time. Most notably, probably The Great Escape. Is one of his big movies. But and of course, like Bad Day at Black Rock is another big one. But I have to say that Outrage is the one I'm the most excited about, because I did watch this one, and it's a very it's a short hour 15-minute movie, but it hits the point hard. About a young woman who gets sexually assaulted, and it just goes through her dealing with the after effects, the psychological effects of that, and just her kind of running away from her life essentially. So that's the big one for me. I was gonna say I was gonna let John
Okay.
is Imprint complete. Of course he is. So
this is his area.
Yeah,
as
so
well.
I'm gonna need him to tell us what's going on here. What we got good here?
This is once again they're pumping out the titles. It really amazes me when there's a sort of a monthly announcement. But yeah, some really good stuff here. I think, like you guys said, Outrage, one I've heard about for years, but I really want to see. So that's one I'm actually probably most excited about out of the lot. Love the Parallax View. I've got the Criterion release, and then this got announced, and this actually has more extras than the Criterion one. So a great film. Once again, it's part of that Paranoia trilogy, as they call it, but this is probably I'd say the darkest, the most nihilistic of the lot, but that's probably why I like it. Also Kid 'Em with a Whip is another one that I've seen many years ago, and I really enjoyed that film. That's one I definitely want to get. And obviously the big one for me is also Lady in a Cage, which once again, kind of like Trog, these sort of amazing, Oscar-winning actresses in these sort of B-grade 60s films playing it completely straight. Just a whole abundance of stuff. And look, the other films, I haven't seen the other ones actually. So they're actually
Well, House of Cards is not the one with Kevin Spacey.
No,
but it is got Orson Welles in it. He's in it.
House of Cards. I feel like
George Peppard.
Yeah.
Because I went through a Wells phase. I feel like I may have seen this, funny enough.
Well, it's directed by the same guy, John. You're going to have to say his last name, Guillermin. He did The Towering Inferno. He also did Death on the Nile. He did... So he's done a few
interesting titles.
I'm just like, I've seen this film actually. Yeah, when I went through my Wells phase. It's been a while. It's been a long time. Yes. Okay, that's one I definitely want to grab. I'll be getting him anyway, but
yeah, I mean, we're not thinking about it. We're just buying this stuff. The Naked Jungle. Now, you brought up Andrew. That we're getting more Charlton Heston. He just keeps getting more stuff.
Every single week, there's at least one Charlton Heston.
Him and Bronson always got something coming out now.
Yeah, from someone. It seems to be, and this is a film I actually did see as well. It's fine. It's okay.
It's Charlton Heston being Charlton Heston.
Yeah, it's Charlton Heston being Charlton Heston, but it's also, he's like a cocoa bean. I think cocoa bean is what you make chocolate from, right? Anywho,
yeah.
He lives in like a South American jungle, and he's runs like a cocoa bean farm. But apparently, he wants to get married, so he basically like has a mail order bride brought in, and it's.
Wait a second. Charles Bronson had that movie last week where he's a watermelon farmer.
Yeah, I know, he's a watermelon farmer. It's like,
what is with these guys doing these movies where they're farmers of
obscure crops,
obscure, things. Like, it's like, oh, okay, all right. Well, they're not obscure, of course. The watermelon are everywhere, and cocoa beans are used all the time. But to make
chocolate and whatnot.
They could have just been like corn farmers or like wheat farmers, but no, they're cocoa bean and watermelon farmers.
Yeah, so he brings in a woman to basically be his mail order bride, if you will, and it's Eleanor Parker, who I believe was in she was in Sound of Music, and she was in Caged and Detective Story, and I think she was not in. I'm scrolling down probably while I shouldn't, but I'll just say this, and the premise of the movie is not even what the movie's about for 2/3 of it. It says the Linigan South American cocoa plantation is threatened by a 2-mile wide, 20-mile long column of army ants. That's not what this movie's about.
What? Wait, so
Like,
this is an ant exploitation
apparently they
movie?
build this movie as like a disaster, like killer ant movie. And I'm like, that's like the last third of this movie is that, and it comes out of nowhere. And I'm just like, can we get back to like this like these two strangers trying to get to know one another, and Charlton Heston's really stern and closed off, which is not really a stretch for Charlton Heston. And this woman's trying to like ingratiate herself to him, and she can't stand him, and they can't stand each other. But then these ants show up and ruin everything.
So we know
That's
now
the
we know
movie.
the secret. It's the secret enemy of cocoa beans is fire ants, or
Yeah, and it's like these like just absurdly, like just massive amounts of ants. Like I don't know how, if they have an ant wrangler or whatever, but
I don't
they
know
were
if you
just
can
like
wrangle ants. I don't
throwing
know.
ants on top of people, and I'm just like, this movie turned to like an
It sounds like they had one
monster
movie. It sounds like they had one movie in mind, and then they switched it like in the middle of like
to something
making
else
of-
completely. And I was watching it, and the movie's only an hour and 35 minutes long. It's not a long movie.
Well, this is sounding amazing. Then
Yeah,
it's that short.
1954. It's pre Ben Hur, Charlton Heston, way before Planet of the Apes. But it's like he plays the same in every single movie. So I saw that film, and I did end up seeing a few other ones. And these releases from Imprint are coming with the new special features now. Like this one here is getting 2 new commentaries, and that's really interesting. We haven't really delved into the special features here, but I've seen The Country Girl, Outrage. I think the reason why even John said it, he hasn't been able to see it because there's been an availability issue, I think, with this movie, especially on Blu-ray. There hasn't been a Blu-ray, I think, around for. I couldn't even find it really streaming anywhere. If anything, Steven gave me the heads up is that it was streaming of all places on YouTube.
Yeah, it was
And
just on YouTube.
So
yeah.
it's got to be maybe a film that lapsed into the public domain at some point. I'm not really sure, but I believe it's technically her Ida Lupino's first directorial feature because her initial first one I think was uncredited. On Dangerous Ground, I think is a Nicholas Ray film. And I think she had to take over.
I was thinking maybe it was The Hitchhiker, but I could be wrong.
No, that was a little later. But she's notoriously, we talked a little bit about her maybe on the show before, but she's notorious for being a woman director during an age where women did not direct films, basically in the 1950s and 60s. And we had very little in the golden age as well. Dorothy Arzner was one that kind of broke through, and we're just now seeing releases from her. And it's really fascinating how that's working out. So I'm glad we're getting more movies from these actresses or these female directors that we haven't been seeing before. And she did a lot of TV work later on in her career, but her first film was Outrage. No, her first film was Never Fear, then Outrage. What's interesting is that Never Fear is in that Kino box set. Yeah. So this is kind of going to fit along with that. I don't know why Kino just didn't have the right to Outrage. That would have been nice to kind of
try to stuff
set.
it in that set,
And she's also notoriously of a long line of actor or actress turned director, and you didn't see that at that time as well. Yeah. That was something that just didn't happen, and so that's another unique thing about Ida Lupino. So that's why Outrage is such a big kind of get for me.
Yeah,
and it is coming with a couple of special features, a new audio commentary by critic Alexandra Heller-Nicholas, and then we get a new 2K scan from the original negative. But there's a quote here from Martin Scorsese about the movie. A subdued behavioral study that captures the banality of evil in an ordinary small town. And that kind of sums up the movie.
Yeah.
And like Steven was saying, it's a very contemporary film because these type of events that happen in this movie are still happening today. And even more so, and it's being more exposed today than ever before. And this film kind of really covers a lot of what's going on at that time, but also what is still happening today in terms of the reaction around this character to her assault and to what she's going through. It's a great film for 75 minutes. packs a
the
lot.
way they do the whole like attack scene of like her, like it's very like scary and suspenseful, and like because this guy's just like sees her, walking home from work
stalks
and
her.
just
Yeah.
stalks her, and the way Lupino directs that, all that is just really fantastic. Anything else to add, John?
Yeah, no, that's it. Look, I just realized I have also seen Last Train from Gun Hill, which is a great Western. Yeah, so no, just very excited. Like I said, these guys are doing some amazing stuff, and I'm just proud that we have an Australian label doing this because for years we've always had shoddy releases down here in Australia. We've never really had a really solid label, and like I said, I think I mentioned obviously to yourself, Steve, and I can actually just walk in we have a shop down here called JB Hi-Fi, and it's kind of like a Best Buy, but they have like a massive movie section, and these
our Best Buys don't have movie sections anymore, so yours is they're not alike anymore.
Because I'm always jealous because I usually go. Before COVID, I used to go to the States once a year for work, and I always go into Barnes and Noble and just be amazed by right around Criterion sale time, and so the fact that I can now go in a store and pick up a boutique label just amazes me. So I usually just grab them on the day and just take them to the counter and walk out with them. So I just think what these guys are doing is really, really cool. I hope they keep it going with their work.
It's been very surprising because, as you were saying, when it comes to importing, I think for collectors, at least here in the States, I think we've always gone to the UK. That seems to be a prime importer for movies. But now, Australia is actually has a label that's putting out great stuff that we want to now import here as well.
Yeah,
so it's kind of like we're going to Europe, and then we're going the opposite direction. It's kind of like feeding into the middle of the United States.
And for us in the U.S., it's because a lot of that stuff is we're able to play on our players too. And of course,
Yes.
we got region free players, but for a lot of people that don't, it's good for them. Like I recently got because we got Umbrella Entertainment also that puts out a lot of stuff, and I got the Psycho Gorman release from Umbrella, and God, I love that movie. That movie's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, Imprint is dude, please, I know we talked about it earlier. Please bring us a Nicolas Cage month. Do it. Put out Face Off. I think Face Off's a Paramount movie.
It is.
Put out Face Off. Put out maybe Con Air I don't think Con Air is. I think Con Air is a Sony movie. But to do a whole Nicolas Cage month, please.
Please, guys. It's got to be at least Bring Out the Dead. I was going to mention Imprint. Interesting that they're part of the company. Originally, I mean, where the label came from was there was a company called Viavision, and Viavision are the sort of parent company. And basically, Viavision for years were doing some really good stuff down here in Australia. Like they were releasing films like Michael Mann's Thief and giving them these really deluxe editions. And a lot of people, I don't think outside of Australia, were taking notice. And then they just came out with Imprint, and it's the same company, but they've decided, look, we'll focus on a boutique label, and it's definitely working. And another bizarre connection, I mentioned Director's Suite earlier on. Director's Suite, the company who owns their Madman, actually distributes these titles. They make all the packaging and whatnot, so they're still around, but they just make the packaging. But I said, they're just a marvel to have. So I'm just very happy and always excited what's coming out next with these guys. So
yeah, I noticed they sometimes even do some TV shows too. Like they got the don't they got that Space 99?
Something.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah. I grabbed that just the other day, and I plan to dig into it.
Yeah, because we got to stop Andrew here, because if I bring this up, he's going to go on a rampage. But we talk about how TV is so hard, like classic TV. I mean that I don't think that show's that old, but like a lot of TV is hard to get good restoration on because it's so much to restore. So yeah, when you see a company put out like a whole show of something, like it's like, man, that's many hours of restoring and doing scans and even doing special features for. So to see that they're putting in that much effort even for classic shows is good to see.
Yeah,
So
definitely is. I think I think maybe in a previous episode, I think Andrew, you may mention that like a lot of TV shows, they're not really available streaming, or the old classic ones. Like they're not really out there. And then look, even for me, like and I think, like I said, like they did, the studios kind of do a season or two, then they just give up. And so I'm hoping that boutique labels can get more into TV because it's a bit niche. But we'll see. I guess I'll see how the line sells, because the first one they did was the Hammer horror TV series, and
I got that one.
Yeah, it's a great set. And now Space 99. So fingers crossed they keep that line going too. So on the side.
Awesome. Anything else to add, Andrew, for this for the Imprint releases?
Yeah, there's one thing I wanted to add, which I've never seen this before in the long time that we've been covering this. The Last Train from Gun Hill release is getting a remastered by Paramount Pictures from a 6K film transfer of the VistaVision negative.
That's got to be
never seen that
That's
before.
got to be a misprint. Come on now, 6K.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah,
I mean, I know films, modern day films, kind of shoot in 8K and then get kind of mastered down to 4K, or even mastered down to 2K, or shot in 4K, then mastered down to 2K, or whatever.
Yeah,
formula's going on there.
Yeah,
but
that has to be a misprint. That has to be a
6K film
misprint.
transfer. You think they meant to write 4 and they wrote 6? I mean, they could do it. I mean, but the detail on that must be ridiculous.
Seems a little ridiculous, but I don't know. But it's good that you brought it up. Maybe somebody will fix it.
Or maybe if that isn't,
or maybe that's
the
right.
case,
Maybe we'll hear it from somebody.
I want to see what this movie looks like, though. Like, if that's indeed the case.
I mean, was it like one of those big sort of like 70mm films or something? Like maybe.
Wasn't it in CinemaScope?
Yeah, I was going to say maybe it's a CinemaScope. Maybe they...
Yeah. Actually, no, the original aspect ratio is 1:8:5. That's not CinemaScope. No.
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering,
that's weird.
6K, yeah, there has to be some sort of large film format or something, yeah.
Yeah, really large, like like you were saying, 70mm. I'll say this, Lady in a Cage, which we didn't even bring up, because it's getting a dual release.
We brought it up, but we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, Olivia de Havilland, the late, great Olivia de Havilland, kind of the last great old Hollywood stars who just recently passed away within the last 2 years or so. A legend all the way up until the end. She's in this film, and it was kind of like John was saying, just these legendary actors and actresses getting film roles late in their careers, and they were just kind of taking these B-rolls. And we talked about Olivia de Havilland before because Kino put out a movie, a TV movie that she was in the 70s, and she was getting TV movie roles in the 70s, and she was in Gone with the Wind. This is the highest peak of old Hollywood is, that 1939 year of Gone with the Wind. Even people who don't even know movies know Gone with the Wind, so it's really, really interesting movie. And this was also the first feature film appearance, I believe, for James Caan, who we've brought up before as well. Really young James Caan in this movie, way pre The Godfather.
Also, always looked old.
Really? He actually looks really young in this movie.
Does he look young in that movie?
Yeah, and it's like I almost didn't recognize him at first. That's how young he looked.
Yeah, it's a bizarre film. Basically, these sort of burglars terrorize this apartment block, and they break in, and she's stuck in an elevator shaft. And I saw it many years ago, and that's why it's called Lady in a Cage. And they're running havoc. And
oh man, so it's almost like sounds like Panic Room, but by accident.
Yeah, it really is. It's exactly what it is.
It's cheesy as hell, but like I said, I actually don't mind it. I would like to reevaluate it, and like you said, Andrew, around this time, it's just crazy. Like these golden age stars were in these sort of films, and I think obviously maybe later in that, later in their life, they started getting really appreciation for the classic films they were in. But it seemed at this time it was just like work for hire.
Yeah, and at the time, a lot of these actors, even filmmakers weren't appreciated as much as they are now. I mean, I always love to bring up that Vertigo, which is, now considered one of the greatest films of all time, was hated when it came out. It was hated when it came. Orson Welles, who I think is one of the greatest innovative filmmakers ever, all of his films, people didn't necessarily like them after Citizen Kane. Hollywood treated him like trash for pretty much his whole life and career up until the end, where they gave him the AFI award, and they kind of welcomed him back in the 70s and kind of now hailed him as the great, auteur of his time. And
he probably wouldn't have had it any other way.
I think
I mean, I'm
would.
sure
I
he
think he would have
loved
wanted to
have
make the
had some of
movies.
his movies finished, but I think
Yeah.
he probably loved being an outsider.
Maybe he did embrace that later
Yeah.
in his life, but you know,
He had to take off to
I-
Europe to make films because just couldn't get financing in the US.
yeah, he couldn't get financing here, and then he would never get like final cut of his movies. You know, the notoriously magnificent Ambersons that cut may never exist, even though they're looking
ain't they out
for it.
searching for it? They're out
They're
searching
looking for
it.
it.
In Brazil, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, they find it. Oh
God,
man, I hope they find it.
Wouldn't that be an interesting thing to be a part of? Okay, we're gonna be like Indiana Jones, but we're gonna go look for movies. You know,
For long lost cuts. Yeah.
Ah, man, that'd be amazing to do that.
Rumor has it he was doing a doc over there, and they were sending him dailies. Apparently, that was the rumor, and so it's got to be there in
Okay.
Brazil. He's got to have the real footage. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he would go like he would make. Was it during Touch of Evil where they notoriously cut that movie down, where I think he was like in Mexico trying to get finance for his Don Quixote movie that I don't think ever got to make really, and he was just not there for the post production, so they just took it away from him, and yeah, that's a whole. We could do a whole episode on just Orson Welles releases and movies and whatnot.
we were talking about that, but I haven't got it set up yet. I've been trying to get it set up with somebody to do a whole Orson Welles, because we did a David Cronenberg one.
Yes,
And I think we might do another director focused kind of like a side, second half of an episode.
it would be a long.
We just
one,
we just gotta plan that better because that episode was like
it was really long. It was really long.
like almost 4 hours long. It took forever.
Yeah, I'll say this: I did an Orson Welles collection overview for my YouTube channel, which I very rarely plug here.
Yeah,
And-
wink, wink.
And it was the longest video I think I've ever done. It was like an hour of raw footage, and then I edited it down to like 40 something minutes, and it was just all of the criterions that have come out, all of the the Citizen Kane release, the Touch of Evil release, and there's been a lot more Orson Welles over the last decade that has come out that I think we've ever had before, and there's still stuff that still needs to come out as well. Like we're still waiting for Other Side of the Wind, which Netflix promised us would come out.
I think
at some point.
that's gonna be a criterion at some point. I think.
I would assume so, but I'm hoping it comes out, because that movie came out 5 years ago. I think it was
5 years?
2016.
Is it that long now?
Yeah, I think it came out in 2016, which is like
following that project for a long time when they initially were doing the Kickstarter, and it went through a long
I
process.
remember that.
Yeah,
who was it? Was it Wes Anderson and Paul Thomas Anderson did like a video for it or something like that, or was it Wes Anderson himself trying to promote that Kickstarter?
yeah. I'm trying to remember. I think
And that Kickstarter actually failed. Actually failed.
and it's so it should be getting released definitely. But if you were to do a retrospective, I guess the question is, do you cover his directing or acting and directing? Like there's a lot. If it's acting, there's
man.
a lot of films for acting. There's a lot of big
Yeah,
stuff,
it is.
There's a lot of his stuff that he did. It would probably be more directing, I think, because that would just be him having direct hands-on, by least for what we know.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to say, hey, let's do a part 1 with directing and part 2 with acting. That'd be
The
interesting.
thing is, it's gonna be tough to get. It's gonna be tougher to get his acting stuff
Probably.
on physical media than it is to get his directing stuff.
quite rare. Yeah, but I love Wells. I've seen all his directed films, but all the ones that are available.
Yeah.
Still waiting for a Blu-ray release of The Trial here in the States. I know there was one in the UK many years ago.
I have the Studio Canal release.
That's what it was. Studio Canal put that out
Yeah.
like years ago, maybe a decade ago. That's the only way to I believe, get it.
Yeah, it's like it's not even in like the package is like a thin like it's like the inside of an indicator release box set. It's like the thin cardboardy like little just it's it's like one
a
of
thin
these
pack.
right here.
Yeah.
It's just like one of these inserts. That's the
Those first gen
So-
Criterion cases. Oof, yeah.
Those are rough. Those once those bend, they don't bend back too
No.
well.
But we've made it to the end. Not as lengthy as I thought it would be, but this is an hour and a half is good. It's a good pace. Before we do our outros, being from Australia, is there a lot of Australian film you feel like that needs to get more attention? Because I was talking with Andrea and we were deliberating whether, if there wasn't going to be a lot to talk about, which of course ended up being an abundance to talk about, that we might do like, a second half or subject on like Australian films that need Blu-ray releases or like things like that. Are there any Australian films that maybe need some more attention that we don't know about?
Yeah, look, there's tons. Like I'm a big Australian film fan myself, particularly around the sort of Australian New Wave era, like a lot of the Peter Weir stuff and whatnot. There's a whole abundance of films. Like look up that Umbrella's doing some good stuff. There's a line called Sunburnt Screens, and they're releasing a lot of sort of Aussie New Wave films. But for you guys in the States, if there's one film I was to pick, it would be, I don't know how popular it is in the US. It's from '93, Bad Boy Bubby. Has anyone seen that film?
I haven't heard of that one.
It's there was an old Blue Underground Blu-ray that went out of print many years ago. But Bad Boy Bubby is one I really, listeners, if you can track it down. It's like a twisted adult, darker version of Forrest Gump. About a guy who's his mental capacity is not all there because he's been locked in his room his whole life by his mother. And he's 30 years old, and eventually he finally gets out and he goes on an adventure. It's one of the most unusual Australian films ever, and I would highly recommend listeners, if you can track that one down, please check it out. It's
you got me. The Dark Forrest Gump. I mean, come on. I'm definitely finding that. Because and of course this is just me probably not putting in the due research, but I mean, there's been some good stuff that I've recently, like we got the Richard Franklin, the Indicator release, Road Games. Yeah, Road Games is really good, and I really so I've just been like I've tried to keep it in my mind. I need to look up more Australian films, and I'm looking up that one.
There's a whole bunch. Like I think Severin's done some good stuff. They've released some really good ones, like Thirst, The Survivor. So I guess some of the US guys can pick that up. The Howling 3 is an Australian crazy film.
Okay.
One of my favorites is Razorback. I'm not sure if that's. I think that's got like a Warner Archive DVD in the US, but Razorbacks are a really. It's a killer pig movie, a killer hog. But it's early '80s. It's very surreal. It's very visual, and it is an art house film disguised as a sort of exploitation animal movie. But
so it's like the Charlton Heston movie. Oh no, it's not an ants movie, but it's a
exactly.
All right.
There's a lot.
Cool.
There's definitely a lot, but I would say. Yeah, Bad Boy Bubby's kind of the big one. I want more people to see that film. I kind of bang the drum all the time.
I'm looking up Bad Boy Bubby. I'm doing that. Anything else to add at the end here, Andrew? Any other questions for our guest?
I just mean in terms of Australian films, there's kind of an uncovered, I would say, treasure chest of Australian films I don't think a lot of people are aware of. Coming from that kind of Australian new wave of the 70s and 80s, people think of, Peter Weir and George Miller and kind of all that stuff. But there's that great documentary, which I've talked about so many times on here, Not Quite Hollywood, The Wild Untold Story of Ozploitation, which came out in 2008. And they've taken clips from that and put them in Indicator releases that have been Australian films. So you're kind of, if you have those releases, you're kind of getting a little taste of that along the way. But there's a lot of Australian stuff that I've come to over the years that I think is rather good. Just off the top of my head, Picnic at Hanging Rock was an early Criterion buy for me, and that movie is fantastic. Peter Weir film, just incredible film. Nicholas Roeg, I believe, is an Australian filmmaker as well. His work is really great. Walkabout, and
he's British, but he did a lot of films in Australia.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Not a real Aussie.
He's just, I guess, a transport, a cultural transport.
Well, it's kind of like Hitchcock. Some people, if they didn't know, they might think he's an American filmmaker, but he's British filmmaker. Yeah, so it happens a lot.
Yeah, it happens. The Proposition is one, I think it's super underrated. Talk about dark, gritty, modern westerns. I know the Western genre's kind of gone away, then come back and done all kinds of things. But 2005, John Hillcoat, kind of an underrated director. And I've always really, really liked that movie. Couple of other things that I only came to in the last couple of years. Chopper and Romper Stomper.
what?
One directed by Andrew Dominic, starring Eric Bana of all people. Before we knew who he was over here. This is like pre Troy Eric Bana, like 2000, and it's a wild movie. And Romper Stomper is early Russell Crowe, like before Insider, before L.A. Confidential, way before Gladiator, Beautiful Mind. This is his early Australian work. Two kind of underrated movies, I find.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And Chopper's really well known in Australia. He's a bit of a cult figure over here because he was a criminal. But he was so public, and he had all these tattoos, and Chopper reads me name, and he was quite an interesting character, and he did some crazy stuff, like which is in the movie. He chopped off his own ear in prison, and he was quite. And the movie's amazing, and Romper Stomp 100%. That's a great. If you want to see Russell Crowe just playing someone completely different as a skinhead, it's really something, that film. But obviously, one I just want to shout out. I'm not sure once again if this has a release in the States. I think over here in the UK, but Wake and Fright's one of my favorite Aussie films. Okay. Basically it's this, I think early 70s, about this English teacher who moved to Australia to teach, and he's in the outback, and he just goes mad because he finds everyone's just drinking and shooting kangaroos, and it's a really dark portrayal of Australia, and Australia tried to bury it, and it finally got rediscovered years later. But Wake and Fright is one of the best new waves, in my opinion. I think it's up there. It's a great film. It's a bit of a psychological horror almost in the outback.
Now there's one I want to mention here. It's on a few lists, but I'm not sure if it's particularly Australian, but Jane Campion, who is from New Zealand, but I believe does a lot of work in Australia. So I don't know if that's kind of like towing the line a little bit. I want to get some Australian perspective.
We know New Zealand and Australia have
two different places. Yes,
just like fighting each other.
But I look at a list here and I see the piano on it, so I'm like, oh, Jane Campion, but it's like she's born in New Zealand. So I don't know if that was towing the line too much. So I want to get a confirmation or unconfirmation from an Australian.
Yeah, so look, our fellow, we call them Kiwis because of the Kiwi bird, our Kiwis down there. We're essentially brothers. New Zealand's kind of like our neighbor, so we share a lot of similarities with each other. So I guess 100% the piano I would put into that sort of genre as well, definitely, and all of her films. So and I once again, not go off topic, but there's a lot of great New Zealand new wave stuff as well from New Zealand, which I think is starting to get discovered. Like I think Arrow Academy was starting to put that stuff out, then that line just vanished. But there was a lot of really good New Zealand stuff. But that's another thing, not only Aussie, but I'd love to see some New Zealand films get restorations too. But
I mean, Stephen and I are still waiting for the early Peter Jackson films. Speaking of New Zealand, we were promised years ago restorations of all of his early stuff, and it's been about 5 years now. Yeah. I think this was pre our podcast. They were talking about this. It's been forever. So give us all that.
He should just give it he should just give it to a label, but he just wants to do it himself. But the guy's so busy. Like, when's he gonna have time to restore his film?
Yeah, he's producing like 10 movies at a time or something. Like he just doesn't take breaks. But then again, you don't see him come out with a movie, but every 5 years.
Well, yeah, he's not really directing now. I mean, I want to say his last directorial film was the last Hobbit film. Yeah, Battle of the Five Armies, 2014. But he's put his hands in
that was before Lady in the Water. I mean, no, I'm thinking of Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro. Talk about somebody who puts his hands on everything. Yeah, he produces a movie, like 10 movies a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Peter Jackson has his hands in quite a few things as well. But he's more working on his own. He's got a Beatles documentary. Did he direct that
documentary too, where they colorized the war footage,
the World War I footage? Yes.
Yeah, he definitely was. Yeah, well, I killed to see a restored version of Brain Dead, Dead Alive as it was known in the States.
Dead Alive, or however you want to call it. Yeah, that had a Blu-ray release many years ago.
Yeah, Lionsgate. It's a pretty rubbish transfer. It's a pretty much a DVD upscale. But it goes for stupid money. It's but
all right.
Well, awesome.
So those films, listeners, discover some great Aussie cinema. It was a wonderful time in Australia because we had a tax loop, kind of like the Canadian Nunsploitation. It was like a tax loop system where these films are being made and some really good stuff. So we don't have that anymore, but check it out. It's Australian films still being made, but you can't beat the new wave or that sort of era. So but go watch some good Aussie films.
Fantastic. All right, well, we've made it to the end. Where can we find you, John? Thank you for coming on, man. We really appreciate you coming on Talk Movies. This is a great conversation. I think we really all bonded here. We all talking about our
cinema.
Talked about cinema here. We'll definitely have you back if you want to come back. So, but please tell us where we can find you on the internets.
On the interwebs. I'm out there. You can find me on. So the podcast is Indicator Cast. Just do a search, you'll be able to find it. There is, if you are on Facebook, we do have a Facebook group, the Powerhouse Films Indicator Facebook page, where we're the admins there, and there's a lot of conversation and cool stuff that goes on. So that's mainly where you'll find me. But like I said, it was a blast. Thank you guys. I'd be very keen to come back. I just love to talk this stuff because it's talk about fellow releases and fellow collectors. So please, if you do it again, let me know. I'd be very keen to come back.
Awesome. Andrew, I know you talked about it earlier, but you do have a YouTube page.
I do indeed have a YouTube page. It is Cabzilla Productions, and it's always a work in progress, but I'm also available on Twitter at Cabzilla06, and I kind of did that in reverse. I know,
right? I was like, is he gonna say it again?
Yeah, I almost said it double time, and I was like, oh man, don't screw this one up. People are listening.
I got you. I almost messed you up. It's like when I go to Chick-fil-A drive-thru and I try to mess them up, and you know how they always say "You're my pleasure." It's like their catchprise at the end. Yeah, and I try to mess them up sometimes to see if they'll not say it. Like I'll say "my pleasure" first. Like, okay, thank you, my pleasure. But
nice.
All right. But me, you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings. Also, you can find me running all the Chasing Labels pages, whether it be Instagram, Letterboxd is me. All the stuff I'm watching, and we have a Twitter. I don't use it a ton, but if you need to message me, you can message me through Twitter. I'll see it. And of course, you can find all the audio for the podcast on all the major places, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. There's probably other places that we don't even control that it streams over to there, like Outcast and stuff like that. So, but thanks guys for listening, and hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.
I will too.